You're still watching Daybreak on Arise News. It's time for our press preview, a first look at what's on the front pages as they come in. And as usual, we begin with our sister publication, This Day. Its leading headline this morning from human rights lawyer Falana, who says it's dangerous for judiciary to sanction 165,000 voters for electoral officers' mistakes. The writers to that story: 6 review of judgment sacking 3 opposition governors. PDP is asking the Chief Justice of Nigeria to probe ruling party's claim of controlling judiciary. Atiku says APC's snatch, grab, run agenda in missile to democracy. Meanwhile, the federal government lambasts opposition party Atiku for casting aspersion on the judiciary. So much going on around the judiciary in these moments. The leading photo this morning on the front page of This Day has the caption, "Meeting on Human Capital Development Program." This was during the meeting that held at the presidential villa yesterday. And you can see the photo of the Vice President Kashim Shettima, flanked by some Minister of Health, also some entrepreneurs, Chairman of Hers Holding, Tony Elumeli, President, Dangote Group of Companies, Alhaji Aliko Dangote. Obasanjo says, as the former president, past president of Nigeria, Western-style democracy is not working in Africa. Meanwhile, the former president, Buhari, says, "I did my best. Not sure if expected results were achieved." Indeed, maybe you can answer that for the former president. Some of the writers to that story, he admits his administration must have been hijacked, explains why Naira redesign policy was introduced. If you want to know what the former president is talking about, pick up a copy of This Day this morning. Now to our current president, Tinubu, who is in Berlin, pushing for investments in Nigeria's power, rail, transport sectors, telling investors highly skilled Nigerians are the country's greatest assets. One more headline before we move on to another paper from the federal government. Federation account received average of 1 trillion naira monthly inflow since subsidy removal. That's This Day.
All right, let's look at Punch. And I'll start with the Obasanjo comment. Presidency fumes tackles Obasanjo over democracy comment. I was conducting an interview on Saturday, I think, so now I was asking the question to my guest, is it the democracy or the players playing the democracy? That's the major question, you know. Okay, the reps probe 447 billion naira COVID-19 spending, some on 83 MDAs. Lawmakers allege mismanagement of funds from 2020 to 2022. Demand accountability. Panel plans 6-day grilling of MDs, chief accountant, finance, and procurement officers. Tinubu woos G20 investors. You see him there in a handshake with all Scholz of Germany. FASC meets over multiple taxation. Osun CJ court workers protest. Assembly listens. BRT users lament shortage of buses and long queues. Israel, Hamas, women, children carry war burden. Families await hostages. NE suspends World Bank's arbitration on OPL 245 dispute. Obasaki's deputy join governorship race plans campaign.
Let's take a look at the Daily Trust this morning. Leading headline, Western democracy not working for Africa, from former President Obasanjo. Meanwhile, Atiku says Nigerians are gradually losing faith. Fayemi says no trust between leaders and followers. Politicians' attitude is the problem, Lamido. And Sislek says ex-president lacks the moral ground to pontificate on democracy. One more headline here. Reps go after 83 MDAs over 184 billion naira COVID-19 fund mismanagement. Can you beat that? Sanwo-Olu under fire over 118 million naira vegetables and Tinubu's portrait. Meanwhile, UNICEF says 110 million Nigerian children are at risk of climate change.
Let's look at sports. Point Sports Extra for the sports-loving lovers of daybreak. You have the picture of the coach of Super Eagles. He said, "Ain't going nowhere." Pesero insists he's not ready to join Egyptian giants Zamalek amid reports of talks between both parties. Mendy sues City over unpaid wages. South Africa coach laments spoil Rwanda pitch. Zimbabwe coach brags after Eagles draw. What do you expect? Saints keen on Onwuachu return. Campbell wants Arsenal to sign Osimhen. Campbell, former player of Arsenal. Then you have United ready to triple Griezmann's wages. And let's just leave it there for now. Messi's World Cup shirt to auction for £8 million. That's the Point Sports Extra.
All right, a full front page for the New Telegraph this morning. Its bold headline on insecurity as reps demand extra security for schools. Some riders to that story. A soldier and 5 security operatives wounded in Yobe governor's convoy attack. That's from the defense headquarters. And terrorist activities in Sahel threaten regional stability. That's from the federal government. At the bottom there, important stories on election petitions. Atiku says Nigerian judiciary is now cash and carry. Meanwhile, Senate chides FMBN for generating 59.02 billion naira and spending 58.44 billion naira. Federal government working to tackle housing deficit. Why Western liberal democracy is not working for Africa. That's by former President Obasanjo. If you are interested in that story, pick up a copy of the New Telegraph. There's also a headline here on what's going on in Lagos State. Procurement outcry. Lagos State government is now clarifying its position on some of the purchases and contracts that Nigerians think are outrageous. Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edun, says CBN ministry working on comprehensive FX market reform. I'm sure this is of importance to you, Indy. That's New Telegraph.
It's very important so that people can begin to... Let's look at the Nigerian Tribune. Some of the stories are here too. Western liberal democracy not working in Africa. Obasanjo, the point is which works, what will work. Supreme Court to hear Lagos Ekiti suit against federal government, 34 other states over lottery control March 13. Obaseki to lead Delta Ondo Ekiti to purchase shares, reorganize BEDC to solve electricity crisis. Subsidy removal, FG records over 1 trillion naira. Monthly revenue inflow, Wale Edu, well, good news you will say, but what will the money be used for? APC set to take over Plateau Assembly from PDP. CBN postpones MPC meeting again. Appeal Court affirms earlier as Benue governor. Then on the top mast, economy recovery. Editors Confab wants the federal government to reduce deafening anxiety among Nigerians. Deafening anxiety, says media sustainability crucial to democracy and economic growth. Impeachment, Keredolu Ayedetiwa's supporters plan protest in Ondo. And then, of course, there you have the president's high educated workforce, Nigeria's biggest advantage. Tinubu tells investors in Germany.
All right, the Vanguard newspaper this morning, leading headline, unease in financial markets as CBN's MPC meeting fails to hold. This is the second time that the CBN has postponed its rate-setting meeting since The bank got a new governor in September. What this means is the bank has not considered interest rates since July, despite inflation rising to an 18-year high, over 27% in October. That's all the headline we'll take from the Vanguard this morning. But there's breaking news coming in as 41 Indian workers trapped in a collapsed road tunnel for 10 days have been seen alive on camera for the first time today as workers attempt to create a new passageway to free them.
Good news for India and good news for the families of those who are trapped. The next thing is to get them out. All right, one more local paper before we go international. Independent. Let's look at what Independent is saying. Telcos bemoan profit dip amid volatile economy. Lose over 5 million subscribers in 8 months. FD records over 1 trillion naira monthly revenue from subsidy removal. And Western democracy not working for Africa. Obasanjo snatching opposition's mandate inimical to democracy. Atiku. Brother queries DSS refusal to allow family visit Nnamdi Kanu. Then, of course, economy. Editors Confab urges FG to reduce deafening anxiety among Nigerians. Let's leave it there for the Independent.
All right, some international papers this morning. We begin with The Guardian UK. Some of the headlines on the front page this morning. UN sounds alarm as world on track for a hellish 3 Celsius rise in temperatures. The report's calling for drastic cuts in emissions raises stakes ahead of COP28. Meanwhile, Trump ally wins in crisis hits Argentina. That's talking about Javier, who won the election in Argentina and will be inaugurated on December 10. Pressure grows and hunts to cut income tax amid evidence that almost 4 million UK workers are to be dragged into paying income tax for the first time.
Now, our local papers did talk about accountability concerning the COVID, and Daily Mirror, seems to have the same story here. Let's look at Daily Mirror on its front page. It says, COVID inquiry bombshell, Sunak, let people die. Patrick Vallon's diary reveals PM's thoughts before second lockdown. Let's see what he said. Rishi Sunak allegedly said, number 10 should let COVID deaths soar rather than impose more curbs. Sir Patrick Vallance made the bombshell claim in a diary entry read out at the COVID inquiry yesterday.
The Daily Express this morning has a quote from the UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, who says we can and will cut taxes as he promises to reduce tax burden. Now inflation halved. He says is finally on the way after meeting his pledge to halve inflation. He will now move to cut taxes. That's from Rishi Sunak.
The same thing on Metro, metro.co.uk. It says PM hints at low taxes. Sunak's cutting it fine.
The Financial Times this morning. Its leading headline, staff revolt at OpenAI piles pressure on board over move to oust Altman. The tech pioneer is now hired by Microsoft. 500 employees threaten to follow, and workers are demanding that the board quits. Meanwhile, Zucker's Redbird offers debt for equity deal to end Barclay reign at Telegraph. That's the Financial Times.
All right, let's look at the Times. The Times, for those of you who need to get fit, it says how to get fitter in 20 minutes a day. Valance was told Sunak wanted to just let people die in pandemic. And WFH pushed to get more sick Britons off benefits. Why just one glass of red can give you a sore headache. Right there, he's talking about red wine.
The Independent this morning, still on COVID. Former UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson, in the Independent's COVID inquiry bombshell, let COVID RIP rip through the UK. Rishi Sunak, the current UK Prime Minister, says, just let people die. Now, they say those are the astonishing words of Johnson and Sunak as told to the COVID inquiry on a day their top advisor says the ex-PM was bamboozled by science and the current PM's eat out to help out scheme likely to have increased deaths. A lot of COVID controversies going around in the UK and also here in Nigeria. The leading photo for the Independent this morning, you can see the former UK Nigel Farage eating a cow's teeth on second episode of I Am a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. The caption says, if he's a celebrity, we're out of here. Farage's debut in Jungle loses ITV 2 million viewers.
Oh.
Yeah. Nigel Farage is not really
what did he do wrong?
Popular. Meanwhile, the PM, Rishi Sunak, says, yes, the time has now come to start cutting taxes. That's the Independent.
Have we done? Okay, so we'll leave it there. All right, that's it for the press preview. Let's hear your view on all the burning issues. Follow us on X at Arise TV.